Good evening and welcome to Mindful Life 282. I am your host Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. Actually, usually I am the co-host, but the host is prepping for her birthday. So her birthday is tomorrow. I'm letting you all know one time. There's no Mindful Life tomorrow, Wednesday. Apologies to Tobago, but there will be no Tobago night tomorrow. Tomorrow night is the host's night. It's her birthday, her first birthday. She's turning that big uno, so I won't be here. But nonetheless, hit that like button, double tap the screen over there on TikTok, hit the like over on YouTube if you are viewing this. Make sure you hit that like button. I understand you might be taking it in on your headphones and you're not really paying attention, but still, you know what? Just take the moment to hit the like button. That's all. You take that moment, good, great, grand. And this is all brought to you by Mindful Education, Mindful with 2 L's _ education. You can follow us on Instagram, shoot us out a message if you are interested in joining our learning pods, which are homeschool style classes geared at students from the learning stages of preschool all the way up to CXC. We have classes for all of those levels. If you are interested, get a message out to us. We also offer individual one-on-one personal tutoring for most CXC and CAPE subjects. Tie 6 say Nathan Knight, you saw Trump interview with Tucker. By the way, where is Melania? She's been missing. Well, Melania isn't a politician. Many times in politics you see the politicians' wives and they sometimes look like they have interests in dabbling in politics. You look at Hillary Clinton, you look at Michelle Obama, you look at what was Mrs. Hazel Manning? And you see some of that. There are some politicians' wives that seem interested in joining that kind of political fray, but Melania never really seemed like that was her interest. And I mean, that's kind of understandable. If you put yourself in her position, you are a foreign beauty, someone from more Eastern Europe, and you are a model basically. You go over to the United States for better opportunity. You marry a billionaire. You're looking to live life nice and cushy. Nice, this guy has gold everything and you're living fine. And then he goes and joins this whole politics thing where everyone now calls him a racist, orange, evil guy. And you get all of those names by proxy. I mean, that's not necessarily something that everyone would want. So I don't blame the lady. I might have disappeared to go and just enjoy my older age and my children and the grand and all whatever. Enjoy that in privacy. Breakfasts, Denicia John, breakfasts. I see your memory works well. But we're not talking politics, at least not quite yet. I saw some news coming out of the United States that's very interesting. The arrest of the sentencing of some of the Proud Boys members, a right-wing group, and they were sentenced to over 20 years for breaking windows at the Capitol. The leader was sentenced to 22 years today for not being there and sending out texts in support. And I think the United States is actually on a very dangerous footing when you have political sides prosecuting the other political side at an exaggerated level for things that aren't regularly prosecuted. I mean, there were members on the left-wing side that basically torched the United States for the entirety of a summer holiday. For most of 2020, they were doing the most, and none of them got 22 years. So these are some interesting things looking at the United States and where that all leads. So you think can we do to better what do you think we can do to better the policing situation in Trinity? We're going to get into that. Right before we start into exactly what can be done to better the situation, let's just dive into an interesting story. And a story that shows no problem, Cosmo. I like the question. It's not, you ask the question whenever, bro. Whenever, because you actually pulled me back onto track there. We were heading down a Trump train, it seems. Alright. Cop beaten, stabbed, trying to part fight. This is just a very interesting story. An off-duty police officer who attempted to part a bar fight in Crep was beaten and stabbed at about 6:30 p.m. on Saturday in the vicinity of Bobby's Bar in Crep. The Express was told that the officer was at the bar having a beer when he observed two Venezuelan nationals behaving in a disruptive manner. The two men were shouting and breaking beer bottles on the ground. Now, you see this issue with Venezuelan migrant men that act violently. I think it's fair to have a heightened interest at some of these stories. But to me, this just shows the reality of Trinidad and Tobago. This shows the reality of what it is to be in a country like ours, the violence that exists on the daily. And the story jumped out to me also because there was a story that went viral, a video that went viral on Twitter, on X, and I think on TikTok it was viral a bit. Some influencer from TikTok here, a black woman who regularly makes provocative content, she reportedly, allegedly got hit by a brick. And she was angry that none of the black men in her presence jumped in to defend her, etc., etc., etc. And you know, I was looking at that story, and if you know anything about violent places and violent people, jumping in to just separate a fight doesn't usually end in your favor. Because according to this, even though he was off duty, the officer who is attached to La Hoqueta police station attempted to quell the situation. However, the two men became enraged, grabbed beer bottles, and attacked the officer, breaking the bottles on his head and attempted to stab him. So, allegedly, he tried to break up the fight between the two men. The two men got upset that he was so fast and out of place to try and break up their fight, and both of them turned on him. That's just very interesting to me. Yes, Trini Moby, that was that woman. Was she the one that got hit by the brick? Wait, was that the super pro BLM protester woman that slaps people routinely? Was she the one that got hit with a brick? Yes, it was her. She was hit by a brick. The person who jumps in does end up dying. Yeah, that does happen very regularly, Tony the Ambassador. That's why, you know, you see people scuffling and going at it out there. You jump in sometimes at your own risk. If you jumped in, I saw, and to be honest, that was one of the most graphic things I saw. Not in terms of the gore or how graphic in terms of blood, etc. it was, but just, hey, good night, Michelle. But just how real the entire thing played out. I don't know how many of you saw the CCTV footage from a bar somewhere in South where 4 Venezuelan or Spanish-speaking people went in and murdered a Venezuelan national who was inside of the bar. They went in, there was a scuffle that ensued. They were fighting, cuffs. It looked like something, a stab or something may have passed even in there. And then while the scuffle reached to the ground, one of them pulled out a shotgun and shot him. Now imagine you in that bar thinking you are going to be Captain Save the Day, and you jump in to stop a fight, and there's a sawn-off shotgun that is being extracted from a bag. What does the government do to bring money to our Soil Lakeview Guest House? Trinidad asks. We were speaking about economics yesterday, Lakeview, and you know, just to browse on that quickly, really and truly, I don't want the government to do much in that idea. Ever see criminals in police uniform? Yes. Is the gun that fling back and hit the shooter? It was a powerful shotgun, but nonetheless it did the job. But an ex-security minister came out recently to defend the Commissioner of Police, to let the population know that, listen, when you blame the Commissioner of Police, you are wrongfully blaming her. It is not on her. Do not blame her. A former Minister of National Security is cautioning the public against laying blame at the feet of Police Commissioner Earl Harewood Christopher. for the rise in murders, which has raised concerns for many law-abiding citizens. Retired Brigadier General Carl Alfonso defended the top cop in an interview with Guardian Media yesterday, noting that she cannot combat crime on her own. The commissioner alone can't do anything, and we know that. It is unfair to target her. Yes, she is responsible for the police service, but she's not responsible for all the crime that goes on. Listen, here's my problem. Here's my problem in a lot of this. When you say things like we shouldn't blame the commissioner is not at fault for these murders, the commissioner can't do anything about this, then what's the point of the commissioner? We are paying this person in all salary and perks, etc., probably going up the road 60, 70,000, something going up there. I'm not sure how much, but I'm sure it's quite a bit. And then when you calculate all of the other expenses that we must pay for the office, if everyone, including the commissioner, a former national security minister, the prime minister, the current national security minister, is basically saying the commissioner of police has no real effect on the murder rate in the country, that's basically what they're saying there, then what's the point of a commissioner? What is the point of the commissioner? Best we forget about the whole thing. Allow the police to be run by within each police station, and they run there, and forget that commissioner business. If the commissioner has no effect, because by saying not to blame her, you are saying that she does not have an effect. Like, okay, I understand you think that you are protecting her by saying some things like that. But to me, and in trying to think about this sensibly, I don't see how this is a protecting statement. I don't see how you say something like this and the population is supposed to hear this and say, that makes sense. She is not responsible for crime, however, she is responsible for managing resources to prevent it. Correct. Police are meant to be a deterrent to criminal element. Correct. Very correct. That's a fact. Howard Christopher hosted a news conference last week in which she touted the success of the police. We know about that. Howard Christopher promised to reduce murders by June after being appointed to office earlier this year. However, she failed to make this goal. And listen. I think in order for Miss Howard Christopher to get a good hearing anymore or any time again in the future, that is untrue, Lakeview Guest House. That is untrue. Poverty doesn't cause crime. Poor people don't thief. Poor people aren't bandits. Losing resources doesn't make you lose morality. So, lies. But in order for me to take the commissioner again seriously, ever, to me, no, it's not facts. It's actually not facts, Lakeview. That is not facts. There's no correlation between the poorest countries and the countries with the highest murder rate necessarily. It's not about poverty. It's about criminality and allowing criminality to get a foothold. Lakeview, I'm not talking about things I'm guessing here. I know that leftists and socialists and communists and Marxists like to propose the idea that poverty causes crime, and therefore, if they could control the government and take your taxes and give it to the poor people, then they would be able to stop crime. That's their solution. They take your taxes, give it to the poor people, and they will stop crime. That's why they like you to believe that poverty causes crime. But can poverty contribute to it? 100%. 100%. Poverty does contribute to certain kinds of crime. And I regularly say this. Crime causes poverty. The reason there aren't many businesses flourishing in Beetham or Laventille is because of the crime situation there. It's not the poverty itself that is causing the crime. The crime is fueling the poverty. And very often, as Spaceship Ant rightfully says there, very often what you find is wealthy people fuel crime that builds up poverty, and then they come to you and tell you that if they could control more wealth of the country, they will reduce poverty and therefore control crime, while they in fact are already controlling the crime. It's a lie. It's a lie that usually is there to get more money from you. So if a man hungry, how he go eat without money? Well, in Trinidad and Tobago, no one is starving. Do you doubt me, Lakeview? The people who are locking your neck and robbing you in Trinidad and Tobago are not starving. No, the homeless people in Trinidad are not starving. There are kitchens all over Port of Spain. There are people that give food to the homeless every day. Not one person in Trinidad is dying from starvation. I would like one of you who believes that to point out to me the last Trinidad and Tobago citizen that died of starvation on this soil. Point that person out to me. Where are they? Show me the starving people so we could send the social worker with a food card to give them food. Do you believe eating from a homeless shelter is okay? Come on now, Lakeview. We are moving. We are picking up the goalposts and running with them. We are running with the goalposts right now. We are moving from the poverty causes crime. Then we said that starving people must eat. But then now we show that nobody is starving. But then it's a problem to eat from the homeless shelter. I don't know what you mean by whether it's okay. If you are starving, it's okay to eat good food. Like, what do you mean okay? If you're starving, it's okay to eat good food. Not to mention the amount of trees that get raided. Yeah, there. As I quote the song from Chronics and Protege, where Protege says in his verse, when he looks at the countryside and sees how many fruits are just falling and rotting on the ground, he understands that poverty isn't really real. At least the hunger side of poverty isn't real. So, yeah, we have too many opportunities to make $1 here. To starve immigrants selling chips on the highway. Correct. People think crime is just blue-collar crime. Yes, that's true. They think so. They think so. You see, the problem with the poverty causes crime, and one of the reasons I really, really hate this kind of thinking, is because there's actually an insidious assumption underneath all of this. The poor people are the dishonest people. The poor people are the criminals. The wealthy people are the honest ones. That's why we have the idea that we should pay our judges as much money as possible, because somehow if we pay them the millions of dollars, they wouldn't take bribes. Yeah, sure. That really works. Yeah, right. That's an evil assumption. The people less fortunate than you aren't naturally criminals. You don't lose money from your pocket and all of a sudden your morality flies out through your ears. That's not how it works. But getting back to the commissioner after this bit of derailment here, getting back to the commissioner, to say that the commissioner doesn't have an effect on crime is saying that the position of the commissioner is pointless. And before this commissioner could come to me and speak about further issues, to me, you need to address the fact that you made a promise about reducing the murders in June. I would like to know, when you made that promise, what made you think that it was possible? And I would like to know what changed. I don't know what the point is you're trying to make there. If you are coming to me to tell me about anything further, I remember your introduction to me as a citizen of this country was telling me you're going to reduce murders in X amount of months by June. Okay. I looked. It didn't happen. I would like to know if you entered the office with a lying mama guy. If you knew you were lying to us and mama guying us from the moment you entered the office and said those words, or was it that you believed those words back then? And if that is the case, I would like to know what made you think that you believed those words back then. What did you see that made you think you could have reduced those murders? And then what changed? What was the thing that distorted that belief that you had? You had the belief that you could have reduced murders by June, and then it didn't happen. Why? And how could you now come to me to tell me anything that I am to take seriously when I know the last thing you said that is on public record is just there blowing in the wind? No accountability for it. I say that word accountability there, and I think about the red pill and the whole battle of the sexes there. Miss Ula, you have these red pill misogynist men on the internet already like to say that women don't like to take accountability, Miss Commissioner. Could we have some accountability? Cosmo says maybe she realized that the task was too much to take on. Well, I'd like to know that. Tristan says liars all around us, especially men. Would you agree? I don't know what you're talking about. 8 years as PM, now you saying put down the gun when Kamala say empty the clip. Actually, he was saying put down the gun all the time, but that just doesn't matter. You're gonna tell the gunman put down the gun, like, yeah, that's going to work. That's similar to me like the feminists that say we don't need to tell the women how to dress and behave. We need to tell the rapists to stop raping. Like, sure. Right, that's going to work. Michelle, I doubt she can answer that question herself. She doesn't seem to have the personality to manage. This is the country of no accountability. Good night, Jacques Jones Carter. I will empty the clip. Okay, Lakeview. Okay, you do your thing. You do your thing. I believe certain positions need a man and police commissioner. Oh, good, Michelle. Oh, good. Michelle with the sexism. A career police earlier now realized the extent of the job she applied for. I would hope not. I would hope not. I would hope that at some point in time during her career, she sized up the job. She applied for this job. I would hope she understood the gravity of the job, what it took to do the job. And if the case is that you did not understand that, well then come and tell us now. Stop the mama guy. At some point in time, hopefully. Blessed night, sea, sky, nature. But let's look at the importance of the police. Why they don't speak to the gang leaders, go after them. Well, there's a problem with that. What do you go after them with? Do you have a crime to charge them with? Do you have a crime that you can prove they did? Imagine if police commissioners were treated as football managers. Yes, but I regularly say this, but the problem with our police commissioner, to me, I don't like the idea of commissioners that are appointed by commissions, because that is basically a political position. You are appointed by a committee, a committee that is appointed by a president that is appointed by the ruling political party. For all intents and purposes, you are appointed by the ruling party. I would prefer a voted position like a sheriff. I think that still makes more sense than appointing someone with a political appointment like that. Like, to me, all my votes would work like this. If we could have voted for a police commissioner, if I felt like, you know what, I think I want to vote PNM this election. Okay, I'll vote for PNM as the Prime Minister, but I'll always vote for a UNC Commissioner. If I'm voting for UNC as the Prime Minister, I'll vote for a PNM Commissioner. Like, that's what I would hope for. But as it is, whoever wins the election, whoever is in governance, is basically going to appoint the commissioner. There isn't an anti-gang unit. Yes, there is an anti-gang unit. But what are you going to tell? Good night, Miss Valley. Good night. What are you going to tell the gangsters? Like, what is the gang unit going to talk to the gang leaders and tell them? Why aren't we holding ourselves accountable? Crime is a social issue. Starts in the home. I'm glad you said that, Paul. Let's look at crime, the social issue, and why we don't always hold only ourselves accountable. Illegal taxmen granted $90,000 bail. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service is urging people who are being threatened by criminals trying to extort money to report the matter to the police, as 2 men appeared at the Shogunas Magistrates Court yesterday, charged with demanding money by menace extortion. The TTPS said following extensive investigations into recent reports of extortion in the Central Division, 2 men, 52 and 36, both from Kelly Village, Caroni, were arrested and charged. The 2 accused were granted bail in the sum of $90,000 each and are due to reappear in court on October 2nd, 2023. Alright, so how does personal accountability stop this? How can I hold myself accountable and stop gang members from extorting money from me by threat? How is self-accountability doing this? When the gangsters call me and say, hey, Mindful, if you want to stay there and live and do your business at $10,000 a month, okay, do I then go into a yoga pose, do some serious meditation and introspection? Do I read some self-help books, some books on family planning and how best to be a good father in the modern age, how to train my children, how to lead my family? You know, what self-accountability should I do to stop the bandits from taxing me? A young businessman, I do not know the full context of it. All I know is a young businessman was shot 7 times, was it yesterday? Gangsters are humans with mother, father, brother, sister, neighbors who know about wrongdoing. Okay, granted, but what do I do? They're calling me, demanding money from me. What do I do? How do I hold myself accountable to help this? Because you're basically saying we shouldn't hold the police accountable for these things. We should hold ourselves accountable. So tell me, how do I hold myself accountable in this situation? What does self Nathan Springer have to do to help this? Or is it possibly, maybe the people who legally have the authority and the mandate to stop crime, they have the ability to walk around with guns like the bandits? Maybe we hold them accountable when they don't stop the gun-toting bandits. Maybe. And not just the police, because even in this situation, the men who are demanding the money are not in jail right now. Well, I don't know that actually, but they could be out of jail right now if they want to, or if they have the money. $90,000 bail, that's what, 9,000 cash? If the men were running a business extortion racket, you think they wouldn't get access to 9,000 cash? And I could tell you, if men call me on the phone to threaten my life and my family's life for me to hand over money, and then I call the police arrest them, charge them, they go to court, and then they get bail and are back out in the neighborhood, I will not be feeling very safe. Personally, I will not be feeling very safe. Would you stand by and watch your son run an extortion racket and not say anything? What would you do? Well, my daughter isn't going to run an extortion racket, so that's my point. For the people, the majority of the population that already raise basically law-abiding, upstanding children, what accountability do you want them to have? What do you want them to do? Our judicial system is slap man waiting for trial, 10 years prisons like hotel, prosecution rate low. Yeah, but the prisons aren't like hotels. That's not true. So you're saying the problem starts at home? Yes and no. Yes, the problems for nearly everything in society starts at home because the family is the building block of society. So yes, the problem starts at home. But when we're talking on a societal level, I cannot go and demand that all the 6 gangsters' mothers go back to when they were in Pampers and retrain them into being upstanding members of the society. I cannot do that. So what we do in society is we understand that some families will not do the right thing and raise their children properly. And we hire law enforcement officers and pay them with the intention that when these people, often young men, stray out of line, these officers are going to deal with it. To then tell me, after I'm paying these people to do that what we need to do is fix the society. Okay, it's again just like the commissioner arguments. If you're saying that the police can't stop it and we need to fix the society, then let's forget about police. Let's do like what BLM in the United States was recommending. Abolish the police, defund the police and abolish the police. Replace them with community activists, with community workers and community servants and social workers. Let's do that. If you think that the police don't actually have a part to play, it's all on the family and the society, well then why do we have police? But if the case is, as is the reality, as I believe the police do have a part to play. No, we raise criminals to contribute to an already damaged system. That's the problem. Who is we? Paul, who is we? Do you have a criminal child? If you have a criminal child, call the police. Call E999. If you have a criminal child. I don't have a criminal child. My baby is 1 year. Well, she'll be 1 year in a couple hours. She isn't doing any crime. So who is the we that raise criminals? I've been teaching since teenage years. Many times for free. None of the people I was teaching were going on to be criminals. I wasn't teaching criminality. So who we? What about soldiers? Can they help? Yes, they can. You know, as you asked that about soldiers, there's actually a place right now that is begging for some soldiers. Special report, the lost cocaine shipment. Drug dealers spread terror in coastal communities. People coming up here terrorizing people. In mid-August, parcels of cocaine began washing up in coastal villages, with whispers of villagers recovering the perilous, precious powder spreading from house to house and village to village. Last week in Mayaro, police recovered more than 46 kilograms of cocaine with a reported street value of $21 million. It is believed that much more is out there still unaccounted for in many of the communities. According to residents, armed men from town have attacked local dealers and villagers in search of the drugs. On Wednesday, Guardian Media visited Mayaro, Manzanilla, and Guayari. Every resident we spoke with said they were terrified. They were also unsatisfied with the police presence, and some residents were calling for the military. One was saying, I would like to have an increased police presence, even if it's Army or Coast Guard, something for the residents of Mayaro. And they were saying that on previous times there were those joint patrols, and I think that's a good point. Throughout history, there have been people who are drawn to criminality. Can't stop that. True. Maybe it starts in mind. Maybe. Michelle agreed. If you're born in that lifestyle, it's difficult to leave. Criminals are raised by those who control power. Hope you understand, Nathan. No. Here's the problem with that seasky nature. Criminals are raised by the ones who control power assumes that if you are in a place where everyone has equal power. Again, you need to understand that many of these things were taught to us by teachers who are Marxists. Dead serious. I'm not even being conspiratorial here. If the idea is that criminals are only raised by those in power, then you're assuming if you're in a place where everyone has equal power, then there would be no criminals. That's not true. There will never be a crime-free society in this region because of demographics and corruption. In recent times, the family household, no parent bear no influence on them becoming criminals. My mother works in the children's court, and the kids that come in do it to be cool. Yeah, I don't believe that, Ja. With an upside down cross. I don't believe that, because people that say no, it has nothing to do with parenting and the influence of the parents. I don't believe that, because I'm a teacher. And I could stand in a class. I could teach a class for an hour, a class of 20 students. And at the end of the class, I could tell you the kind of parents that almost all of the students have by just looking at the students' behavior. So the idea that somehow it's not the parents, you're blaming parents wrongfully. That's not the parent. That's not actually true. When I talk about the accountability that the police must face, I am not removing the importance of the family and parenting there. Hey, should Trini copy the same approach El Salvador did to combat crime? Maybe. I think we might be closing in on that stage, Cosmo. I think we might be closing in on that stage. The music the youth listening to plays a role to the musicians. The Trinidad artist Snat Kid says, my view on Trinidad music, Snat Kid, is the art is following the reality, not the reality is being shaped by the art. So these guys are singing about a gang life reality that exists in the communities. They are not singing the gang life reality into existence. I am not saying I approve of the music. I agree it's bad. It's not a good thing. But it's a kind of chicken or the egg kind of question here. And if it's the reality that is shaping the art form, you cannot try to force the art form to be something else while the reality continues to be what it is. Paul says, point fingers to everyone around you, but yourself, no one wants to take blame. Paul, what are you talking about? Is your child a gangster? If your child is a gangster, call the police on your child, please. Instead of trying to blame everyone else for your gangster child. Because lots of US aid for armed forces to stop gang violence, that wasn't solved without bloodshed. Don't you think television has an influence on criminal activity once parents not watching closely? Yes. Many things have an influence. But you see that part that you added in there? once parents not watching closely. If parents allow the community to raise their child, and I make this point, I believe that some of those ghetto communities, some of the kind of slummish communities, just the overcrowding of those communities, how those communities are structured, makes it difficult for parents to do parenting. They don't have the space. You don't have that nuclear space. You don't have me, my wife, and my family in a house with 3 bedrooms and a bath and toilet and a yard surrounding us where we could discuss things in privacy and make decisions as a family. No, you have a slum where everyone's privacy is everyone's business. So, yes, I agree that outside influence has a part to play. But nonetheless, even in slums, most of the hero stories and miraculous stories you hear coming out of slums are almost always because some parent decided that they are going to work harder than the average to make sure their child gets better than the average. Will there be no change if they don't start somewhere? I have no kids, bro. We are talking about a society. What you want me to reference it to? The sea? Well, what's your point? What is your point? I don't understand your point. Who is responsible? You're saying we. I don't buy that. I am not responsible for raising any criminals. So, I don't understand what accountability you want me to have to stop criminality in the country. Do you want me to walk down into the Beetham, find whoever is the big boss in there, and go and plead with him, please sir, stop crime? That's my accountability. What? What are you talking about? Or says the Hennessy and Banco wine communities where they buy Nike shoes every weekend. Hey! Oi! So singing about something, having too many kids at the same time without equally sharing your time and attention. Yes, that's going to lead to bad parenting. Correct. Good night, Sophia's Sense Emporium. A lot of apostrophes. Nobody's wrong, you know. It's a very layered and intersectional topic. That's what I mean by those who control power can control criminal activity, and that's a bit. Oh, wait. That's a different thing than saying criminals are created by those who control power. Those who control power can control some criminal activity, obviously. Gangster music was being played / sung by popular Jamaican artists since I was younger, so don't blame the music. True. Gangster music isn't exactly new. I noticed the wealthy people have very few kids and those in lower wealth classes have 20 kids. Yes, that is true. Wealthier people tend to have less kids. That's a pretty common thing. Nearly all around the world, really and truly. All right. Now, we were talking about the criminality down on the base level there. But there's a level you could get to where you don't need a gun to rob people. You don't need to go through all of that up and down bacchanal of jumping through people's window and kicking down people's door and all of that. Hey, I'm well, primary school masterclass. I am well. Even gangster codes back then were different. If you are well connected enough, the money comes to you. I remember when this thing first started, I pointed this out. When the Paria tragedy happened and the 5 men lost their lives, they drowned, and people began demanding a commission of inquiry, I said, I don't see the point. Not that I don't want to find out what happened to the men, but my experience seeing commissions of inquiry is lots of talk, lots of money to friends and acquaintances of the connected, and nothing really coming out on the far end. Bill for Paria Commission of Inquiry continues to rise. Over $21 million expended to date. See, Sky, that number has been adjusted up. $21 million. Listen, for the family of the 5 men who lost their lives, I am nearly 100% certain they would have all preferred 5 men. You take that 21 million, split it up among the families, and give each one 5 million each. Still have $100,000. Well, still, sorry, have 1 million waiting there. And by the way, the expenses very likely may not be finished yet. Yes, Tony the Ambassador, I know. That's why when I talk about these things, it's not a one-sided thing. I am not saying that this is a PNM ploy or a UNC ploy. They all do this. All of them love commissions of inquiry. They all have lawyer friends. I've said it before. The lawyers are the problem, you know. The lawyers that go into political positions, make the laws, and then go and fight the laws in the court and demand that they are paid top dollar to do so. The bill for the Commission of Inquiry into the Paria Fuel Trading Company Limited diving tragedy continues to balloon, with $6.4 million paid by Paria in legal fees, bringing the amount expended so far to over $21 million. Of that figure, over $10 million in legal fees were accrued, the lion's share going to Commission of Inquiry Chairman Jerome Lynch, King's Counsel, $3.4 million. What is the point of this? You pay this man $3.4 million for what? This is just an extension of the old oligarchic monarchic systems where you have the royal court and you have the ladies and the lords in there that just take money for taking money's sake. They sit inside of the king's court and stand there and collect rents from all of the peasants just for sitting and standing there. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. And one of the parts that always stands out to me whenever I read about the follow-up on this is they issued a Freedom of Information inquiry to get this information in the first place. In response to the first Freedom of Information, Permanent Secretary in the Office of the Prime Minister, Maurice Sweet, provided partial information with respect to the expenditure. The Permanent Secretary provided some information on the expenditure, but did not give a detailed breakdown, stating that pursuant to Section 31 of the Act, personal information is exempt from release. He stated that it was imperative to protect personal financial information in light of the ongoing crime situation, which could result in payees being targeted. So, a tragedy on a state-owned job site. The state launches an inquiry, pays who they decide a lot of money. When the people come out and ask where's the money going, they say, okay, we are paying this much, but we can't tell you exactly where the money is going. You know, we live in a dangerous country. These are the people in governance telling us this. People that are part of the ruling party. You know, that control the Minister of National Security, that selected the president who selects the commissions. So they control the commissioner to some extent. They are saying that after they take taxpayers' money and pay it out to who they decide, they can't tell you who they paid it out to because it's a dangerous country and you may be putting the people's life at risk. Open a commission of inquiry to find out why the Freedom of Inquiry Act requirement wasn't adhered to. Yeah, that's exactly what we might do. We love those in this country. Another commission, another inquiry, another committee chaired by Professor XYZ. And Professor XYZ gets $300,000 to write up a paper as being chair of this committee. He gets $300,000 from the government. The government wants him to write up a paper on a certain topic. I wonder which side he's going to lean on. Alright, people. As I said at the beginning of the live, it's the host's birthday eve. The host of the Mindful Live, my daughter, her birthday eve. So, you know, we're taking an early dive out. We can't stay too long tonight. So that's all I have for now. Any further comments or questions inside of the chat? He leans on the safe side because it's a dangerous country. Happy birthday to your daughter. Thank you. I'll accept it on her behalf. Alright, people, if there are no further questions or comments inside of the chat, that's all I have for now. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. Be mindful, not mindless. And I will see you guys again, not tomorrow. I won't be here tomorrow. So sorry to the Tobagonians who may have been looking forward to the Tobago Live. There is some bacchanal brewing out in Tobago. I see Mr. Duke is back on the track, so we'll see how that goes. But I won't be here tomorrow, so I'll see you guys again Thursday for the next Mindful Live. Thursday Talks Mindful Live. Be sure to join in around 9 p.m. Stay in a little till 9:15 if you don't see me. You know, that's the kind of period there. I'm from Tobago. Big up Anson Davidson. Anson sounds like a Tobagonian name, eh? To be honest, it sounds Tobagonian. I could tell. Big up, bro. And I will see you guys again for the next Mindful Live Thursday 9. Until then, stay educated. And I will see you guys then. See you in the next video. Laters, people. Peace out. Listen to you every night. Appreciated, bro. Very appreciated to all. And I know there are many people who listen and don't comment. There are many of those because I could see the number of people that are listening and I could see who is commenting. And to all of these silent listeners, many of you might be very loyal listeners too. Very much appreciated. Very much appreciated. If you are listening to this over on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button. Share the video to some people who might like this kind of content. Last night I had a really nice live too, a really informative live on economics and the point Trinidad is at. So if you want to take in that, you could head over to YouTube, Nathan Spring over there. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys again for the next live Thursday. Peace out. Later.